Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tattooing Network.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
What's going on, Outriders? John, Josh, and the droid formerly known as Matt are currently rocking it out here on your weekly podcast. What's going on, Josh?
Hi, John. Boy, it's really nice here having nobody else in the studio, but you and me. Where's Matt? Matt, where are you?
Hello, come in. Can you hear me? How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's Disney, man?
I don't know. I left about an hour ago to come back to the hotel and record, but when I left, it was doing well. Thank you. I'll tell
Matt,
Disney that you asked.
Why is it you sound nice and robotic right now? Did you actually
Do I
transform yourself into a droid?
Bad?
A little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm cosplaying HK-47 tonight, so it's the After Dark, and I'm ready to eradicate flesh bags.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say you are much too nice to be HK-47, and it's meat bags, by the way.
You're right. So let's start over.
So you made the nice long trip down to Disneyland, right?
Yeah, sure am. I'm here for the After Dark thing that we're going to get the jump on the May 4th celebration. So very excited for that. So the wife is taking a little nap, and I'm doing some recording.
Yeah, to all the listeners out there, I'm sure you're probably going to be downloading this either on May 4th or after. So if you're hearing this now, May the 4th be with you.
Absolutely. And May the 4th be with you, and also with you. Now, Matt, I got one question for you, real quick, while you're out there at Disney.
Just one, and then I'm done?
Just one? Well,
okay.
No. Just regarding your visit to Disney.
Okay.
How many AT-AT popcorn buckets have you got me? That's what I want to know.
How many do you need, and can you afford it?
Yes and yes.
Okay. I'll definitely keep an eye out. I didn't see that. There's supposed to be a bunch of crazy swag going on and promo stuff tonight, but I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, oddly enough, there's a bunch of people that I've seen online, Reddit, Facebook, that have said that the Disney AT-AT popcorn buckets actually size well for Legion and make good terrain. Grab a couple so we can have some AT-ATs on our tables here.
Yeah, I've seen like side by side where they took like the Revell model, and actually it's the most scale appropriate.
Yes.
So Matt, you may have a future in black market trading of AT-AT popcorn buckets.
I'll get you as many buckets as you need, as long as I keep all the popcorn.
Fair deal, man. That works for me.
So what's the lineup for the festivities for the rest of the weekend?
So tonight we're supposed to be getting some like special exclusive passes and whatnot that allow us access to the zone, to the special zone they're setting up. They were retooling Space Mountain today, so there's supposed to be some special Star Wars themed. I know they used to do it like a Hyperspace Mountain, but then they redid it back to the old retro 60s Space Mountain style. So it'll be interesting to see what they have for that. But there's going to be like a march of the stormtroopers and extra events, and just kind of be and just staying open late. So we'll be able to get on that Indiana Jones ride as often as we want, I think.
So are you dressing up?
No, despite my robotic voice, I was still trying to get the wife to sign off on letting me get a set of the Stormtrooper armor they have for sale there in the launch pad. But who knows? Maybe if the moment is right.
How much is the Stormtrooper armor?
Oh, I think it was something around 1,700 for the first order.
Yeah. Is it 501st accurate?
I don't know. It looks pretty good. It looks really good. But the Vader set that they have out there looks really good. Also, it's got the multiple bar mask. But that's like $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would probably still just show up in my $30 Chewbacca onesie.
Oh God.
It's okay. Actually, that mine's not movie accurate.
They specifically said that onesies are okay tonight for people dressing up. But
nice. So we got our regular podcast as well going on today, folks. So it's not going to be just a live report from Disney. We're going to talk about the latest news, or was there latest news out of the Hyperspace Report?
Hyperspace.
Yeah, exactly. FFG pulled the old rope-a-dope.
Hyperspace transmission.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. We got some news from the organized play set, and organized play, not set, but and then we're also going to talk about at least a recent sneak peek that we got at a product that FFG may be launching pretty soon. And of course, some tournament news, and we're going to talk about the drop of the snowtroopers, because it looks like some people are starting to get those snowtroopers on there
in Italy, of all places.
Right?
Yeah. I've seen like 3 or 4 pictures today. Hey, I'm in Italy and my snowtroopers got here. Okay, I'm moving to Italy, because apparently that's where FFG releases all of their stuff first.
So Josh, since we're playing the tournament this weekend, are you going to drive to Italy tonight to go get your snowtroopers?
No, because they're not. They won't be. They won't be. They're not tournament legal yet, because they've got to be actually released to be tournament legal, and they don't officially release until Tuesday.
Matt, what's the verdict?
You can tell that this is an American podcast because you recommended he drive to Italy.
Public school. Well, you see, U.S. Americans don't have maps.
Where we're going. Yeah.
Never mind. That's a very old joke. That, anyways.
So we got a lot of cool stuff, like I said, to talk about in just a little bit. But right now, let's talk about some Star Wars news. Matt, you had some news about the Star Wars Forces of Destiny show.
Yeah, apparently they're doing some more episodes. I need to get caught up on that. I've seen a few here and there. Some of them are very fun, but they're all web series kind of episodes on YouTube. But they're making some more, with the next one debuting on May the 25th.
So what is Forces of Destiny?
So they're basically little cartoon shorts, like 2 to 3 minutes, that are kind of life and times out in the small stories of the larger Star Wars universe. And they usually tend to focus on various things, different characters. Like there was one for Sabine Wren, Harrison Dula, and they kind of fill in the gaps between the different stories that are the major story arcs.
Isn't there a toy line for that too? Kind of like 12-inch Barbie
exactly.
doll type thing. So that's it's really neat that they're doing this, because they're kind of taking the Disney princess angle. No, I mean I don't even mean that as a joke.
Yeah.
They're kind of taking the Disney princess angle and using that to market Star Wars at preteen 8-year-old girls, which is great. I mean, you look at the market of what Star Wars is by and large, and it's overwhelmingly male. So.
Sure.
For Disney to go and have a toy line that caters Star Wars directly to girls, I think is a great thing.
And I think that to say that the typical demographic for Star Wars is just your typical, 18 to 60-year-old males is not exactly accurate anymore. So, I mean, there's definitely, I know when I went to see the opening of Last Jedi, there were a lot of women there of all ages. So, yeah, I mean, why not get young girls into Star Wars?
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely been a push for that, to have a more inclusive cast and all that stuff for all these different shows and movies coming up. I mean, hey, Jen and Rey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So, that's should be a pretty interesting show, and we'll look forward to seeing more stuff on that. What are you seeing over there at the Star Wars event in Disneyland? Are you seeing a lot of families and stuff there?
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of families out. They're going to be shutting down kind of part of the park at night, so it'll be interesting to see who kind of filters out for the evening festivities. I know there's going to be a certain area that you have to have one of the access lanyards to get into, so we'll see how many people make the transition over.
And I know they're making, for lack of a better term, I don't know what they're calling it, Star Wars Land. There at Disney. Are they opening that this weekend? Or I thought that was like a 2019 opening or something.
Yeah, that's still a ways out. I'm hoping there might be some preview of it tonight. They're supposed to be previewing some solo stuff tonight too, though, so I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
If Donald Glover's there, you need to make sure that you get his autograph.
Oh,
as
man.
Lando, though.
Yeah, just check the newspaper clippings for tomorrow. Crazed Las Vegas resident attacks local Disney star. Because you're awesome,
attack him, man.
You're awesome. Yeah, no. Just overly enthusiastic. How about that?
Oh, that works for you. Do you think that there's any chance you'll see any FFG products out there?
Ooh.
Or is it pretty exclusively just to the Disney stuff?
Yeah, no, it's mostly their kind of stuff. I think the biggest crossover I see is a lot of the pop figures and whatnot that Disney has in here, but most of it is fairly exclusive. They've got some of like the Black Series lines of figurines for those who like to collect those. So, and then they have some exclusive Disney products. So it'll be interesting to see if, as part of May the 4th, they bring in some of this stuff, because wasn't that what X-Wing, the blue kit that came out a couple years ago, was that a May the 4th, or was that a Force Friday?
that was a Force Friday thing.
That was Force Friday. Okay, so they may not. I'm not really expecting it though.
Yeah, and for FFG, that's they set an expectation there when they did a surprise Force Friday core release, and then everybody last Force Friday was like, "All right, what you coming out with?" And then it was like nothing.
It was the 2-player starter set for Destiny.
Yeah, like I said, nothing.
But yeah, okay, X-Wing centric.
Hey, this is a Legion podcast, sir.
Okay, so nothing, period, as it ever released on Force Friday, then, as far as we're concerned.
Yes.
Well, I feel like because the lack of news from FFG this week, we're probably going to divert a little bit from just strictly Legion talk. We'll probably bounce around topics a little bit.
Has there been other news on FFG?
So, as I'm sure most people listening out there know, FFG has Worlds going on right now. And, Worlds is not just X-Wing, it's a number of different games. And how exactly did they word it going into it for their, their big release news?
For their Hyperspace Report, basically what they said was, join us on May the 1st for a special broadcast concerning FFG products.
Okay.
Star Wars products. Yeah. And the word that they used was products, plural, multiple. Yeah. So you wouldn't be wrong to assume that would include games like Destiny, like Imperial Assault, and hopefully their new product, Legion. You'd think that would be one of their big focus, right? You absolutely would. And there's a lot of folks, myself included. I was at work in the middle of doing something, and I tuned in on my phone to the Hyperspace Report. And about 20 minutes in, they were like, "Oh, this is just X-Wing." And all the comments going up on Twitch is like, is there going to be Legion news? Is there going to be Armada news? And people are like, no, it's X-Wing only. Great for the X-Wing guys, but, you put out a press release saying products.
Yeah.
It's extremely, I don't want to say that it's misleading. I understand that they had a secret to protect. I get that.
Yeah.
But man, you gotta do a better job of expectation management. Matt, I'll go ahead and let you say something, because I got a lot that I got to get off my chest on this, and I don't want to rant without giving you guys a chance to say what you guys want to say first.
Well, I appreciate it before you blow out our microphones and earphones and everything with your craziness. But all is not lost. Yeah, it was kind of disappointing. We were hoping to get some more information for Legion. It sounds like they're going to be doing that coming up at a new what's the big one coming up? That's
Gen Con.
Gen Con, of course. They'll have some news there. But there's some interesting approaches that they're taking now that they are starting to introduce to the company that is new that I think will trickle down to Legion, and they're very exciting for me.
Such as? Can you talk about them?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, let me expound. The fact that they're moving a lot of the information that's going to be done for X-Wing 2.0 is going to be in app-based, basically. There's a very powerful app that Privateer Press uses called War Room that allows information to be updated regularly, and then you can go to the app, and whenever you play with it, you have these updated stats and rules. This means that they can have a much more proactive approach to tournament balance, unit strengths, and that they can make adjustments on the fly, and they have them all in one place. So the next time you load up the app, boom, all those updated rules are on the card of, your Jack or your, in this case, your X-Wing or your Y-Wing, and hopefully eventually on Legion units. So you can see, impact grenades are now 6 points or something, and they used to be 5. But it just allows them to get away from the Well, like what ended up with Dengar, I guess, towards the end here, where it was a fact of a fact of a fact, and it's like, am I up to date? I again, as a very casual X-wing player that played once in a while, I never even wanted to touch the Jump Master because I had no idea what was going on with that thing. So if I can just go pull up my app and it's like, okay, here's the Jump Master. All right, well, that's what I'm playing with right now. And I foresee and hope a lot of that will translate down to Legion down the line.
Now, do you foresee that being a subscription-based app? Is the War Room one
So the War Room, it does charge you a couple bucks per faction, which actually leads me to the next thing I'm excited about. So I think it was so for the full War Machine game to have like all 10, 13 factions or whatever it was like $80. And you got updated cards constantly and all that. They got to find a way to pay for the programmers doing the app, all that. Not
Sure.
that big a deal. Whatever. I'm a collector of all those things, so that was okay to pay it. But so going on to the next thing, so Fantasy Flight has now said that they're breaking out First Order and Resistance into their own separate factions. They're not just going to be folded into Rebels and Empire. Wow. Okay, cool. So if they're already thinking about those guys as being separate, faction leaders for X-Wing, which is good because they've got several ships in the line, it definitely sets precedence. Hopefully down the line, we're going to see something like that come out with Legion.
Yeah, and I don't think Legion can survive with just two factions.
I don't think so either.
I think 6 or 7 is probably the sweet spot. And I think you can do that easily. You can do a general scum faction from the classical era. You can do
I want Hutts,
Republic
I want
and
pirates,
droids.
I want Mandalorians, and then everything else from there.
Well,
and I think
and then you do Resistance and First Order, and that gets you 7. You got the 2 prequel sides, you got the 2 sequel sides, and then you got 3 from the classical era. I think 7. I think that's right around where this game needs to be.
You're just angling for your Gungans again, aren't you?
Well, I think as we see this game progressing, one thing I think you probably complained about before with X-Wing is just the bloat with it. And I think if we get a staggered release pattern with this game, don't rush in anything too quickly and allow the game to kind of develop organically, and then bring in more factions, I think it'll probably work better. But the things that we see happen with X-Wing, obviously it's a different game system, but I feel like that can kind of be the guinea pig for what works with Legion.
Yeah, and everything I've seen about X-Wing 2.0 on the table looks great. I'm a big fan of
There's some interesting rules in there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, introducing force powers for force sensitive folks, the way they're changing kind of barrel rolls and actions, and now certain ships and pilots have certain actions that are kind of like a built-in push the limit.
Force upgrades, kind of like in
force upgrades, all that stuff. I think everything they're doing within the 3x3 mat in that game is bang on right, in my opinion. But.
And those things, those can be used to transition how they see the development of Legion. And I'm not an X-Wing player like you are, but I guess I look at that and I see, okay, these are promising things for development of other games.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is they're finally making the jump to a new edition. That is,
it was needed.
Huge.
I mean, they needed it about a year and a half ago,
and it's one of those kind of big boy miniature game companies things that needs to happen before the bloat gets completely out of hand. Sometimes you just got to clear it all away and start fresh. So good on them for doing that. I'm excited, and definitely I hope whenever it's Legion's turn that it'll be popular.
But I think that's a big milestone in the development of a game, because that can be kind of the make or break point with whether you bring in new players, whether you bring returning players, or whether you lose players. I know with what we saw with Warhammer, with the new edition change, because it changed so drastically.
Oh yeah,
you had people who had not played since 3rd edition who decided to make the jump back into the game. So, with X-Wing, you might lose players now, but you might attract more players into it.
And that's usually what happens with these. Arguably, 7th edition Warhammer wasn't terribly popular, but definitely making a change 2 new editions, you'll always lose people. The guys that were like, this was my game. 6th edition, 7th edition, that was my game. That was what I played. And I'm mad as hell, and I'm selling all my stuff on eBay. But usually if you do it right, you'll end up picking up new players that are like, oh, new edition. Okay, maybe I want to check this game out now. And that can be a tool to bring in new people to the community and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I was talking to a couple of folks out in the store prior to coming back here and recording, and we were actually kind of surprised that the response to X-Wing 2.0 has been outrageously positive, like overwhelmingly positive. And what we figured is that instead of losing people at the new edition, all of the people that were upset with the way X-Wing was going quit about 1.5 years ago when they started doing like the super fact to the jump master and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of worked because you've already weeded them out, and really the only folks left are the hardest of the hardcore. So that's helped them a lot with kind of the reaction that they've got from X-Wing 2.0, which is good.
And I think one point that always kind of sticks with some gamers is what's the buy-in for 2nd edition? What's going to be the additional cost factor? Because with some systems, like I know with Warhammer, what they'll do is they'll kind of rotate the functionality of a unit. One unit might be overpowered in 7th edition, all of a sudden it gets the nerf bat in 8th edition, whereas a unit that nobody bought before all of a sudden becomes playable. So you see people going out and buying these new units, and that kind of acts as the rejuvenating source of income for Games Workshop.
Yeah.
How is that going to work with X-Wing?
I mean, they're doing like conversion kits for all of the ships.
There will be a new core set and then conversion kits for each of the existing factions.
So the buy-in, if you buy one of each product, it's about a $300 investment for a veteran player, which I've got my own opinions on that. But like we said, this isn't an X-Wing show. I don't want to go into the weeds and the minutia of X-Wing 2.0.
I would say closer to $90. But one faction kit, one core set, and you're probably good enough to start playing games there. If you want
to start playing games, but I mean, if you're somebody like me that's got multiples of many ships in all of the factions, you're going to want to play.
If you want to run your freaking 12 Z11 or whatever Z95s, go ahead.
No, I'm not even talking about that, Matt. I'm talking about. I want to be able, as somebody who's invested a lot of money in all of these ships, I want to be able to play all of them. So, the initial investment for me, I've got to buy a core set, I've got to buy an Imperial conversion kit, I've got to buy a Rebel conversion kit, I've got to buy a Scum conversion kit. And then the First Order and the Resistance ones will come down the road. But, that investment right there up front, 3 conversion kits and a core set's almost $200, and then it goes up to $300 when you put the other 2 in there. I think for any edition change for any game, I think that's a significant investment to pass on to your veteran people that have been with you for years and years and years.
John,
I don't think that's a great business strategy, but FFG knows their audience, and they know, just look at the reaction, everybody's going to pay it unless they were already on their way out the door.
Well, like I said, I think that's how they handle their jump to 2nd edition will, have a lot of implications for what we see with Legion 2.0, if and when that happens. So, while, his complaints may be centered around X-Wing, I think it is relevant to what we might see later on in the future. And let's face it, X-Wing doesn't have as big of a buy-in price point as most tabletop miniature games.
Oh God!
I mean, yes, you could spend a lot of money on ships, and having to buy redundant ships just for the upgrade cards can be pricey. But when you're comparing it to things like Warhammer, it's a lot smaller of an initial investment.
I like to think that it's 2 different kinds of investment, but the investment is about equal. In Warhammer, I buy an army up front, and I spend all that money up front, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And then all I have to do is pay maintenance fees, essentially, for the new editions as they come out. With X-Wing, they're getting ready to launch their 14th wave now of ships. So every 6 months, it's an investment of at least maybe $150. So what would you rather have? Would you rather have a game that you spend $600, $700 up front and then you're done? And then it's just, maybe $100 for every 3 years? Or would you rather have a game that it's a small investment up front, but if you're brand new and you got to catch up, that's a significant investment,
For sure. But I'm looking at this from a business perspective where, more companies are going to make money off of continual gradual purchases.
Oh, yeah,
things
absolutely.
like that. That's why, as far as the video gaming world, you see more subscription games that are dominating the market because that's where you're making the money.
And there's no sticker shock.
Yeah,
exactly. I looked at getting into 40K and I was like, Jesus, I've got to pay $700 to get started in this game, right? To get good and to get right in this game, to not be embarrassed and to not, and that's just for the plastic. That doesn't even count painting.
Sure. And when you're looking at this from a shareholder standpoint, who maybe doesn't understand wargaming, they're going to look at why are our numbers trajectory going downwards? They're going to look at that and say, well, why aren't people buying more things? Well, if people are buying things up front, that's the sales are going to spike and then drop off. So you need to have something that's going to keep them buying into the game.
Right.
Actually, there was a really good discussion on this on the Facebook group last night, and our good friend Joe C. He had a good point on this, and it's like, listen, Fantasy Flight is investing. Who knows how many man hours doing this product? They're putting out the cardboard, doing all this. Yes, it costs money to pay these people to keep designing this game that everybody that is playing it hopefully loves and enjoys, and to keep it moving forward. Well, that costs money, so they can't just come out with free product. They got to pay those people somehow.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely.
And let's all kind of just be thankful that we aren't really paying an astronomical fee for what we get with Star Wars Legion thus far. Knock on wood, hopefully it stays that way, but it has been relatively, reasonably priced.
Well, I mean, if you've got AT-AT popcorn bucket money, I assume that you can cover everything that comes up for this game. So
yeah. I've got 2 different sets of acrylic tokens money here. Okay, that's the kind of
fancy
look at we go. Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
Josh getting all bougie over here.
Yeah, I know, right? All right. Let's talk about the actual Hyperspace Report in and of itself.
Okay.
This thing, it takes a lot to really make me unhappy. And 2 days after the fact, I'm still a little torqued off about this. I think it's really important to kind of say up front that, like all good media out there, yes, we're fans of the game, but I think we kind of have a responsibility to hold folks accountable when the time comes.
Okay.
Right? At least I feel, I don't just, unlike some podcasts for other games, not even FFG properties, it's not my job to be, FFG's sunshine pumper. Right?
I don't think anyone would accuse you of being a sunshine pumper.
No, I understand that. But, that's not the role of a podcast. So I found the way that they structured the Hyperspace Report to be diplomatically very disappointing. I don't want to necessarily say they intentionally misled people. They had a secret that they wanted to kind of keep protected. Mm-hmm. And we could talk in a minute about whether that was a secret that really needed protecting, but because I don't really think it was. But for them to sit there and say multiple products will be talked about, and then to only talk about one line of games, I think is intentionally misleading. And where, for as good as what, and I just kind of said this with X-Wing 2.0, X-Wing 2.0 is very good on the mat.
Yeah.
What FFG does on the mat and on the table is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, they're a game design studio, maybe not so much a
Exactly.
media studio.
Yeah, but what they do outside of the game board needs a lot of help, and I'm going to say that as politely as I can.
Are you sending your resume this week, or
actually? Hey, FFG, I've got real world. I've got a lot of experience in mass media and stuff. So public relations. If you want some help, give me a call. I'll help you out.
If you need a sunshine
enough for the
cover.
Thunderbirds.
Shh. I don't talk about myself that much here. Anyways, so it's telling that the best customer service that you get and the most community engagement that you get out of FFG comes from the game developers. Alex Davey has been all on it, responding to emails, helping people out. If FFG had just a general, answer line for rules questions, you wouldn't. I do not think you would have the amount of engagement that you have with the fan base. Frank Brooks from X-Wing is exactly the same way.
Okay.
If you email him and you got a question, he's right there, gets you a concise answer, and it's good. But man, from a public relations perspective, I look at what FFG does, and I can't honestly tell you what they're thinking or what their strategy is. I can look at any number of products out there and kind of tell you where they're going and why they do things from an advertisement, social media, and community engagement perspective. FFG does a terrible job of expectation management of the community. And that's their job. That is a public relations shop's job. And if FFG has a public relations department, the fact that they didn't go 10 minutes after the front page announcement that there was going to be a Hyperspace Report, and on the Legion pages, and on the Legion Facebook pages, and on the Armada pages, and on the Destiny pages, everybody's going, what are we getting, man? Let's speculate. And you don't go and try and massage that message or interject somehow in those communities. You don't need a front page release on ffg.com. But what you do need is your public relations people as part of these communities, engaged in these communities to kind of maybe massage the message a little bit and maybe direct some of that wild speculation. FFG isn't responsible for what I think.
That's kind of this is my counterpoint to this.
But if they word it in a way that leads to rampant speculation, if FFG had come out and said, join us for this podcast, join us for this webcast on Twitch where we're going to talk about X-Wing, then there's no rampant speculation. But the way that they postured it, especially considering the way they've postured previous announcements about product lines and things like that before, is yes, are they 100% responsible? No. Did they plant the seed that then became something that it shouldn't have been? Absolutely. And that's not something you do from a public relations perspective. Because as a PR pro, if you're not looking at something like this and going, hey, gee, the way we word this, everybody's going to think we're going to be talking about Legion and Destiny and stuff. No, they're not. It's fine. Just do it. Well, okay, you got to game plan that out and see what the potential pitfalls of that communication method and mode is.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate on this real quick.
Come on, John, bring it on home.
Well, first of all, let me just preface this by saying that I don't have the experience with FFG that you do, so I don't necessarily know what their working model has always been. Going into this, though, I don't know if it's the fact that we're disappointed because they misled us, or do we need to do a better job of tempering our expectations? Because from what I understand from this, they said that we have exciting news about upcoming products, correct? So they didn't say specifically, look, we've got a lot more Legion stuff coming out.
They said Star Wars products.
Star Wars products, which could be Legion, it could be Imperial Assault, could be Destiny, could be X-Wing, number of products. Maybe in their development team, they had a guy hammering out their Thrawn and Death Troopers. Maybe that's going on right now, okay? But they saw the huge backlash from, oh, look at that ugly Han. That's a terrible sculpt. Why are we not having better paint jobs on these Rebel Troopers?
It's your fault.
No, I'm just saying, that people, they release news, and it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like, okay, this product's not quite ready. It's not studio. It's not, showcase quality yet, so we can't release this yet. So by being intentionally vague and just saying Star Wars products, they let us come up with our own expectations on things, and if you were disappointed by it because your expectations were too high, maybe don't set your high expectations.
Expect nothing.
For someone who grew up being a Browns fan, you should be used to that already.
They're probably going to have a big reveal for Jedi Temple mats or something.
Yeah.
It just got
Let me counterpoint your counterpoint, okay? If I'm a public relations professional and then I see these things starting to go away, I'm going to go to the guy that's organizing this Hyperspace Report and go, hey, stuff's getting out of hand. Are you guys ready to kind of reveal those Imperial special forces and are you the Hound counterpart? Oh, you guys are? Well, do you mind if we just throw something at the end of the Hyperspace Report so that we're throw us a bone? Okay. Right? That's because that's what a public relations person is supposed to do. That's what a community manager is supposed to do. Hey, we kind of stepped in it and said we're Star Wars products.
Throw us a freaking bone here.
Exactly. The other 5 properties that the fans of those properties, including some properties that really get shafted by FFG when it comes to news and attention, Armada.
We didn't even talk about that.
What's that?
They know who you were talking about.
Exactly, but it's I like to throw our Armada friends a little shout out every now and then. It doesn't cost much to say, hey, this hour-long event just became an hour and a half because we're gonna, and it's not like they didn't have this stuff. The week before the Hyperspace Report, they announced a new expansion and a bunch of other packs for Imperial Assault. What is the harm in holding that and putting it in the Hyperspace Report? Nothing.
Because then they get people complaining on podcasts about how they went a week without news.
But Imperial Assault is also kind of one of those underserved games.
Yeah,
it's X-Wing all the way up here,
yeah,
and then kind of Legion and Destiny are here, and then down at the basement is Imperial Assault and Armada.
Well, maybe they wanted to be able to give
market shares kind of look like for that, because maybe when they're saying Star Wars, products, they're just assuming the 98% of their sales that go to X-Wing. That's what just everybody else will assume.
And that could very well be true. And maybe that they would be better served by just not making any preview at all. If that's the working model, Games Workshop, they'll go into they're going to have their big Warhammer Fest, and they might not give out any news until that happens.
Yeah,
right.
And then they have like a big PowerPoint presentation. They show everything that's coming out, and then it's like, oh my God, everyone's mind's blown.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that it's unreasonable for the community to look at multiple products and then it's only for one title. I mean, Matt, you own a game store, obviously. If I came to you as a rep from a game company, just a rep from a game company, and said, hey, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pitch you some very exciting products from our game lines. What are you expecting? Hey, we have this property that we have 5 games. I'm going to come in here and pitch you some exciting products. And if I walk in and I've only got products for one game, what are you going to think?
That's not
honestly
exciting products. No, usually if they were to come in cold like that and say, hey, check this out, it would be their bestsellers line of whatever it is. Even GW, who obviously sells mostly 40K stuff, they at least mention, Warhammer Underworlds or the Shadespire stuff or Age of Sigmar, all that stuff. They'll put it in there. They'll mostly focus on the 40K, but I get exactly what you're saying in that they honestly should have just said, okay, exciting X-Wing news. That's it.
And here's the thing. Exciting X-Wing news. The entire community is going to go X-Wing 2.0. Does that lessen the excitement for when the announcement is actually made if there's 2 weeks of speculation that, hey, we're getting X-Wing 2.0? Absolutely not.
No.
Not at all. It's not even a secret worth protecting. There were already people speculating that we were going to get X-Wing 2.0, even with them protecting the secret. There was a picture I saw on one of the Star Wars, the X-Wing meme sites on Facebook, and it said "me right now," and it had a picture of 2 folders on his desktop, and it said X-Wing 2.0 memes, not X-Wing 2.0 memes. And that was before the Hyperspace Report. So the expectation was out there that we were getting X-Wing 2.0 in this announcement. So why protect it at all? Why go through all of the rigmarole to keep it secret when you have a fan base that is going to throw their money at you regardless of if the secret gets spoiled 2 weeks in advance or not?
Well,
and is that worth torquing off all of the other fans of all of the other games? I don't think it is. And, talking about this on Facebook with some other folks, one guy said, well, hey, that's just FFG. And I'm like, yeah, as an X-Wing player, I get it. That's FFG. But, Matt, you've talked about it. There's a ton of folks coming into Legion from Warhammer, from War Machines, from a bunch of other companies that have no experience with FFG, and this is their first look at how FFG operates. Oh, cool, I'm really into this Legion game. I'm going to tune into this thing. I mean, I saw people on the Twitch stream saying they took off work to watch this thing because they wanted to see Armada news. Now, yeah, maybe that's a little extreme, and I'm giving you the most extreme case here, but when you go as a company, when you go and do that kind of thing, it has real consequences for people. You can't do that. It's not operating in good faith as a company in a business public relations aspect.
Let's be real here, though. Are you really a gamer if you don't have, are you really a game company if you don't have a love-hate relationship with your customers? Because I feel like that's the mark of, hey, we made it as a game company.
I mean, I've said it before on the show. I consider FFG my frenemy. Yeah. And this is exactly why. There are game companies out there that I think are absolutely awesome. Some computer games. I mean, FFG, for what they put on the table, is the best experiences I've ever had in gaming. And that is an unqualified gaming. Board games, card games, video games, consoles, you name it. Sports. The best experiences I've ever had in gaming.
Okay.
But I've got to wade through a bunch of poor community management BS to get there. And it shouldn't be that way. All they have to do is go hire some competent PR people that understand how to put together a marketing strategy. Their marketing strategy is everybody loves us so we can do whatever we want. It is.
That's the adage I live by every day.
Yeah.
All right, honestly, we're gonna take a quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, just to wrap up, and honestly, there's probably a great percentage of the population that tuned in and said, they didn't talk about Armada. Oh well.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
I went about my day, so I lived. All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a quick break here and come back with some more news. We're going to talk about a product that's just been kind of sneak peek that we'll have a fairly exclusive look at. 1 second.
Tune in every Wednesday to Radio Free Tatooine, a Star Wars podcast that's better than some and worse than others. Take a trip to a water cooler far, far away as we bring some casual, fun conversation into the Star Wars podcasting community. Hosted by me, Sean, my sister Amy, and John. Radio Free Tatooine. We may not know what we're talking about, but we sure know how to record it. For more, visit RadioFreeTatooine.com, a proud member of the Radio Free Tatooine Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network, recorded on location at Power 9 Games. Whether you're looking for the latest releases from Legion, X-Wing, 40K, Magic, or any of our other extensive inventory of board and card games, head to power9games.com and use coupon code OUTRIDER10 to get 10% off your order. Plus, shipping is free on orders over $100. Now, back to the Outriders.
All right, Outriders, we are back. And this just Josh and I now. Matt, I don't know, I think he got hit with a droid restraining bolt or what?
He had to go ride the Matterhorn.
Oh, that's what it was. So we got a few more things to talk about today. Now, one of our loyal listeners shot us a
spy picture.
A spy picture. Yeah, he got all paparazzi with it.
Right.
What did we see in that photo?
So it's just a bunch of boxes on the other side of a window, but it says Legion playmat Jedi Temple. So, new playmat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but all of the boxes, the way they were stacked up, they all just said Jedi Temple. So, if you go out by FFG's previous release of the two desert playmats,
yeah,
there's an accompanying playmat out there somewhere that we haven't seen yet But I mean, my conjecture here, since it's a Jedi temple, and most of the Jedi temples we've seen in Star Wars have been in very lush places.
Yeah.
That we're getting, we've got our desert kind of playmat, mountain, craggy, canyon playmat.
Thinking like Dantooine or something like that.
Right. Yeah. This is going to be our, or Yavin 4.
Yeah.
Because that was it was a Sith temple, I think it was, but it was a temple anyways that their operations center was in. So this is our green playmat. And I'm sure there's a Hoth playmat or a snow playmat on the way.
But you never know. It might be more of like a ruined temple kind of like appearance. Maybe some kind of, tiles and stuff like that. It sounds cool, and we haven't seen anything yet. The one hope that I have, and I'm sure you probably share this sentiment, is I really hope they keep it two-dimensional.
Yeah, I'm not holding out too much hope for that. But, the important thing about this is usually FFG announces a product, and then on their site it goes from at the printer, which is in China, to on the boat, to when it's in America, shipping now. These are in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Boxes and boxes and boxes of them
are in
Minnesota.
And that's not in China
which is
for the
not
geographically
in China.
Challenged.
Yes. I mean, we can't drive.
For the people who think they can drive to Italy from Las Vegas.
Right, yeah. So, we've got cool stuff coming.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's exciting. That's one of our release every month. Well, here you go. Here's one of your releases every month.
Yeah.
So
that wasn't exactly given to us by FFG, but
right.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get some pictures out so we can see what that's going to look like, and that might change the way some people want to do their bases for their models.
Right.
People get some cool rubble ruined temple bases or grass bases, whatever works. Something besides Tatooine and Endor, because that seems to be what everyone's doing. Or Hoth.
Yeah, and we, as far as we know, there's no temples on Endor. Coffee bean factories, sure, but temples, no.
So we saw that news, and one of the other big things we had was the organized play news. So FFG,
that's big.
Yeah, a couple days ago released the Lead Your Troops. Was it the Lead Your Troops to Victory? Was the headline, and what are the news that we're looking at for that?
So, and this is really, and this was part of the Hyperspace Report also, as this concerns X-Wing, the organized play side of X-Wing.
Yeah.
But FFG is doing, it looks like, a top-to-bottom relook of how they do the organized competitive scene. Because there's organized play where it's just, we get together and play in the store, and it's just, yay, we're having fun. And then there's the I'm out for blood, I'm your Huckleberry scene of competitive play. So FFG is completely redoing from top to bottom their competitive play. It used to be, the way it ran is you had kind of feeder tournaments. You had a store championship. Open tournament. Anybody could come and sign up. If you won a store championship, that got you a first round bye at a regional championship of your choice.
Okay.
First round bye means you get a win for your first match, and it's a 200-0 win. I believe it was I believe it was 200-0.
So maximum points.
Maximum points for X-Wing, and I'm talking X-Wing here.
Sure.
So you got max points victory. You're a step ahead. Up of everybody else, and that's kind of your reward for winning a store championship. If you won a regional championship, that got you a first round bye at national championships, and then if you won national championships, that got you a first round bye at World. And there were multiple national championships around the world. There's one in Canada, there's one in the United States, there's Belgium, in Europe, a bunch of places. About 2 years ago, FFG introduced in X-Wing what they call system opens. And the system opens were kind of like if you think about massive conventions that don't feed into that feeder structure. Because they're too big for a regional, but they're either small, they're not. You can only have one nationals, right?
Sure.
And Worlds is always at FFG's facility in Minnesota.
So you're looking at things like Gen Con, like
Gen
LVO,
Con, Nova Open, LVO, all of those kind of things. Too big for regionals, but you can only have one nationals. So they started having these system opens that were major tournaments, but kind of side events outside of the normal store, regional, national, worlds structure. So what they did is they had all of these they had like 8 system opens for X-Wing, and then the winners were invited and had all expenses paid to go to Minnesota to play in what was called the Coruscant Open, which was kind of like a Grand Nationals kind of thing. Worlds but not worlds, for lack of a better term.
And this was on FFG, like they would actually pay for that?
Yeah, this was on FFG. And it's worth noting that like the system opens, like regional championships, they're happening in local stores. So, attendance was capped at like 120 people. Usually you got 80, depending on where it was and travel time and stuff like that. Some of these system opens had like 200, 250 people show up to them.
Okay.
I mean, you bring your A game, pack a lunch, and they would do a first day cut, and then you would play what was essentially a whole nother regional type, because usually you play 6 games at a regional, right? Because based off of the amount of people you have determines how many games you play. So you'd play 6 games at a regional, and then you would cut to top 16. System opens, they were playing like 6 games, and then you would have to play like another 4 games just to make the cut, because that's how many people they had to winnow down. So what they've done now for Legion is they first announced it for Legion, and then they announced it for X-Wing as part of the X-Wing 2.0 thing. Mm-hmm. So now what they're doing is they are having a kind of a blend of the old system and the new. So now they're going to have, I'm not exactly sure what let me scroll down the article here. Sorry, I'm unprepared, I'm sorry. So what they have is they're having rally point qualifiers. And the rally point qualifiers, from what it sounds like and what we can get from the article, are generally going to be like your regional events. So if you win a rally point qualifier, you are going to go to what is called, it sounds like you're going to get an invite to what is essentially going to be a big tournament at Gen Con.
Okay.
Outside, independent of those rally point qualifiers, they're going to have what they call maximum firepower qualifiers, and those are going to be events on the scale of the system open.
Okay.
You're going to have system opens all the way around. After the rally point and the maximum firepower qualifiers, all of these people are going to be funneled into what they call the High Command Invitational at Adepticon. This is going to be a huge tournament. Invite only, from what it sounds like. You're not going to be able to just sign up. Like Worlds that's going on in Minnesota right now for X-Wing, they have a lottery system. You've got people that got buys to get in there, but the rest of the spots are first come, first serve. Well, not first come, first serve, because they get such an amount of people that want to be part of it. It ends up being a lottery. So it's like half the people earned their way there, and then the other half it's like a grand melee. It's dark horses. It's hey, maybe you had a bad run of regionals and you didn't get a bye, but you're still there and you're still competing. So where this is a change now is the top 8 at this High Command Invitational at Adepticon will then get an invite, all expense paid, like the system opens, to Worlds in Minnesota.
And this is held the same time as X-Wing Worlds, or this is a completely separate event?
It sounds like it's going to be the exact same time as X-Wing. And X-Wing is going to this kind of a system too, where there's going to be a bunch of feeder tournaments to this event at Adepticon, and then the top 8 from that will then go to Worlds. So Worlds are now going to be invite only, which is a big change compared to how they've done X-Wing in the past. And there are other properties too. If you could get a ticket through the lottery to the X-Wing, Destiny, Imperial Assault Armada Worlds, you could play. It didn't matter how good you were. You could have picked the game up yesterday, but if you got in with the lottery, you were in. Now it's invite only. It's cool because it's invite only. You're right. It brings some prestige to it.
Yeah.
The issue that I kind of see is now if I want to, no kidding, invest in being world champion in Legion or X-Wing, I've got to not only win a regional, which is cool, but now I have to travel to Adepticon, and these are worldwide games.
And this isn't being sponsored. This is all on your own dime.
This is on your ticket.
So only the Worlds is going to be
correct.
Okay.
So if I'm a Legion player, one of our listeners in Russia.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Putin.
I think there's more than one now.
Yeah, I think there is. I think we've got like 17 downloads from Russia. But, Australia. Australia is one of, as far as our numbers, is one of our biggest international markets.
They have a dedicated
They have a very dedicated
community.
Board gaming group down there. So now, if I'm in Australia, which is a pain in the ass to get to America from,
oh yeah, sure, yeah,
absolutely. It's like a 17-hour flight. It's to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Not to mention Minnesota.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
So now, if I'm an Australian player, I've got to go to Adepticon on my own dime, vacation time, time off work, whatever, on my own dime, and then if I qualify for Worlds, I got to go back to Australia. And I got to live my life. And then I got to get time off of work or whatever, life, again, to fly all the way to Minnesota. It basically has now closed the competitive scene to North America only. Unless you just got a ton of money and a ton of time.
Well, it's an expensive hobby. Things like that will definitely add up. But it's no different than if you're playing. If you're a competitive skier, get sponsorships. I don't know. Maybe you have a friendly local game store who's going to sponsor you.
Yes.
I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not like, if you want to talk sponsorships, who's going to do sponsorships? If I'm skiing, I'm sponsored by a ski maker, right?
Yeah, you get people who make the nice plastic.
The wonderful folks at Curled Paw Creatives
there you go.
Aren't paying people to fly from Australia here to play Legion. It's not happening. They're a great company, good stuff, good product. They ain't got that kind of money.
No, it's going to be something that's going to definitely be a financial investment to anybody who wants to try to make those trips. But I don't think I'm a good enough player to warrant even worrying about that at the moment. But we'll see in the future. In the meantime, though, we've got local tournaments and stuff that keep us occupied. And
Absolutely.
This weekend, we're going to actually have our first doubles tournament here.
Yeah, man.
And you and I are going to do a little Imperial and Rebel team-up action.
It's like Iron Eagle 2, man.
Right?
It's like Iron Eagle 2.
It's the second time we've referenced Louis Goss in here. It's like the most Louis Goss has ever been talked about since the 1980s.
Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, so we're teaming up, and it's going to be 1,600 points, so 800 points per side. I think we've got a good 8 to 12 teams already signed up, so it should be a good turnout, and we're looking forward to that. But what do we think of strategy-wise for this?
Well, you got the best of both worlds here. You got Rebels who have Z6s, throw lots of dice. You have Luke, who's a good pocket Jedi.
See, my list is already pretty much set because I've been running the same. I've had pretty good success with the 3 ATRTs and 5 troops with Luke.
Right.
But you have the Imperial side on this, and you've got some options to work with.
Yeah, I'm busting out Veers. I don't think there's a reason to have 2 Jedis on the board.
Okay.
Especially Grand Army, you're playing on a 6x4 mat with the movement limitations that we have with Papa Vader. So I'm going Veers. I'm bringing more troops and more bikes and some other stuff. I don't want to give out too much, but what I will say and what I like about this list is even Veers, when you count maximum firepower, every unit has anti-armor capabilities.
Yeah. In
some way, shape, or form. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So some of them are big, some of them are not. But with armor being what it is in the game, between ATRTs, speeders, and ATSTs, I'm digging it.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see, and we haven't played a Grand Army yet, or battle yet, but you have essentially double the number of models on the table, and you don't have double the space. Really, that 6 inches on each side will become negligible as the forces push towards each other.
Right.
So it's going to be a more crowded battlefield.
And you don't have double the orders to assign.
Exactly, yeah.
You're still limited to, a 3 pip card. So we're going to have, possibly, 18 units on the board, and we can only issue orders to 3 of them.
Yep.
So that's going to be, I think, our biggest challenge is, movement orders and where we're moving who, when, and who we're issuing orders to, and stuff like that.
And I think it's something that's going to be interesting with the pregame, because building your command hand is going to become a more strategic thing going into this, because I've never had a situation where I had access to the Imperial, command cards.
Yeah. Well, and what's going to be interesting is if you're doing, and I don't know if our TO, if we just, we hung up on him, so we can't really ask, but the rules state you can only have one copy of each card. Well, what if I've got a double Luke list or a double Vader list?
Well, that's
or a double Veers list. Do I only get one copy of Veers' card, even though I've got 2 Lukes on the board?
Well, I did ask the question earlier.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and
okay.
You're allowed to have 2, as long as you don't have more than 2 of each pip. So, can't have more than one pip card. Can't have more than 2. Can't have more than 2 1-pip cards.
Okay.
Can't have more
than
you
2
can have
2
pip
Son of
cards.
Skywalkers.
Exactly.
Oh, balls.
So, yeah, I mean, if there were 2 Rebel players, because you don't have any other option than running Luke as a commander.
Yeah.
So it'll be something that we'll have to, see how it plays out, and we'll give you guys the full rundown of the results. See how bad we get our butts kicked.
Or if we take the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, or that
this
too.
Will be first charge of the Outriders. It'll be nice. It'll be fun.
Well, folks, that'll pretty much wrap it up for today's show. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll be back next week with hopefully some more Snowtrooper talk.
Yeah, Snowtroopers. We said we were going to talk about Snowtroopers, and we never did.
Well, we talked about the fact that they were in Italy.
This is
about it.
This is true.
I mean, since we haven't really had a chance to actually put our hands on the models, we aren't really... We have no room to speculate on that yet. Some of the paint jobs we've seen, though, so far have been pretty cool.
Been really good, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I think next week, because we didn't really do a hobby segment this week, because we were, talking about Disney and all that stuff. But next week, we'll delve into the differences between how to paint a snowtrooper and how to paint a stormtrooper. Because I think some folks will probably be
I have no
interested in
idea what
that.
I'm going to do.
Well, there you go. Tune in next week.
I still have stormtroopers and bikes to paint.
Well, it doesn't help that you live in Las Vegas. You don't know what snow is anyway.
Right. Hey, I'm from the Midwest. I know what snow is.
We all are.
Yeah.
Well, no, never mind. Matt's not. Matt's from California.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, folks, that's our show for this week. Just want to remind you that the Legion Outrider podcast is brought to you by the Radio Free Tatooine Network, a podcast network that's better than some and worse than others. To see the full lineup of shows, head to radiofreetatooine.com. See you next week, Outriders.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter at Legion Outriders, subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.